sometimes I post on LinkedIn these like kind of positive posts, and then maybe like 2 hours later I'd be crying because I was like, I know there's something wrong with me and I don't know what it is. We push ourselves so hard. We're all ambitious. We want to create this massive change, whatever it might be in the world. And if you haven't had a breakdown or you haven't pushed yourself to the point of burnout, you kind of don't know where the edge is. So if we all talk about founder burnout, does it make it less likely that founders will burn out? Or are they just going to push themselves to the edge like we all do, like I have done? So many people I know have had communities for female founders or for founders or for anything, and they've closed it down because what starts off as a lovely idea then becomes big and it becomes too much and overwhelming, and then you're not getting paid and it's not possible. And I think the difficult thing is monetizing it. So many people have said to me, you'll never make any money from it, it won't end up lasting.
And now over 8,000 members.
Yeah, 2 years on.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
What should people know about the one and only Emmie at this stage of life?
What they should know about me is I'm a mum of 4. That's probably the most important thing. I'm an exited founder, so I've had quite a few different businesses. I'm a micro angel investor, so I've invested in, I think, about 30 women-led businesses, very small amounts. I am the founder of a community called Female Founders Rise, which has over 8,000 female and non-binary members. And I like Pilates, I like yoga. I'm curious about anything to do with health and well-being, and I love entrepreneurship. That's probably a good roundup. And I like going on solo holidays.
I'm impressed you're able to wrangle solo holidays with 4 kids and all of those.
I've done quite a few. My brother said to me, yesterday, when are you next going on one of your solo holidays? And I said, I don't know. I haven't been for a while. And he said, because you were going every month, weren't you? And I said, I wasn't going every month. I think I was going about every 2 to 3 months, but that was because I hadn't been well and I was kind of getting better. And it was an amazing thing to do. So I'm grateful to my husband for allowing it.
That's lovely. You weren't well. Long COVID, 18 months. You said on other podcasts you went through this crazy period.
It was like long COVID, perimenopause, breakdown, like everything come together at the same time. I think long COVID, as in the doctor thinks it might have been that. But I think it was also the mental impact of having 4 children, a husband who lost his job during COVID. It was a huge amount to deal with. And then I decided to move my whole family to Wales just as COVID ended. And that kind of didn't really work out. I think it was just a lot of pressure and stress, like trying to move a family of 6. And then not everyone was happy there. And then I started getting ill. And then I moved everyone back to London. So that was another big sort of stress. Get 4 children into school. And then I started therapy. I started medication. I started going on solo holidays, and I kind of changed my whole life. Stopped consulting. That was another thing that was making me ill. And I started this little project, Female Founders Rise, as a little project to help me get better. And that's obviously been one. And I also started angel investing as well. So all the things that I think have really helped me, I started, on the cusp of me getting better.
You had a friend as well that said that there's going to be something good that comes out of this.
So I remember my friend who is she does functional medicine. I don't exactly know how you would describe her, naturopath, that kind of thing. And she did some tests for me like quite early on when they came back that like all my estrogen, testosterone and progesterone were just like on the floor. Like there was like nothing there. And I would talk to her quite a lot because I was really trying to work out what was wrong with me. And I knew something wasn't right. And I always thought I would be able to sort it out with, I don't know, meditation, mindfulness, homeopathy. Not that I necessarily believed in that, but I was clutching at straws. Acupuncture, like I literally tried everything. And I remember her saying to me at the time, this is like, really full on, but something good is going to come out of it all on the other side. And then that obviously took a lot longer than I'd thought, but it did eventually come good.
Founders in general tend to deprioritize their health. Given that you now run a community of 8,000 founders, I'm sure there are multiple examples of this within Female Founders Rise, because naturally people struggle to see the woods from the trees and sort of put it all into perspective. How do you support other founders or other people if they have these sort of similar challenges?
I think I just talk about it a lot so that everyone knows that it is a thing. So I did a post the other day on LinkedIn about it, just saying, there was a photo of me and I was like actually, like having a real laugh. And I just said, this is like a real genuine smile. And for quite 2 years ago, I wasn't ever doing that genuinely. I remember sometimes I post on LinkedIn these like kind of positive posts, and then maybe like 2 hours later I'd be crying because I was like, I know there's something wrong with me and I don't know what it is. And then I also remember saying on LinkedIn, like, what you see on LinkedIn is not really what is necessarily happening behind the scenes, because I'm turning up on LinkedIn with a happy face, but actually quite often I'm crying. So now there's various things. Like, I think I just talk about it a lot so that it's a known thing, like as much as I can. And I also share my story a lot so that people can know that they're not alone. But I do also think as founders, we push ourselves so hard. We're all ambitious. We want to create this massive change, whatever it might be in the world. We're trying to create impact. And if you haven't had a breakdown or you haven't pushed yourself to the point of burnout or whatever it might be, you kind of don't know where the edge is. So even though I was having signs for like a long time, mental and physical signs, I would just keep pushing myself even further. Whereas now I can like literally know that sign. And if that happens, I shut my laptop shut, will literally go to bed for 2 days. If I could see that I'm maybe like slightly approaching that point, which I've probably had 2 times in the last 2 years.
What are those signs?
I can just tell, like, I'd start feeling much more anxious than normal, anxious in social situations, really tired, dizzy, weird. So like I remember Alex, my husband, went away. This was probably about 8 months ago, I think. Alex went away, so I had the 4 kids on my own. I also had an event in Leeds, which I had to go to that day and get back. And obviously, because Alex wasn't away, it was like shipping and help. And then I had an awards ceremony the night before I went to Leeds, and I was up for an award, so I felt it would be rude if I didn't go. So Alex was away. I went to the awards ceremony, got back really late, went to Leeds, did a whole day in Leeds, was meant to have a board meeting the next day, hadn't had a chance to like prep properly for the board meeting, tried to cancel the board meeting. That was just like, wasn't what I should have been doing. And basically I just got, very overwhelmed and sort of stressed by the fact that and then I think I got home and one of my children was just being a nightmare. And I just literally totally couldn't cope, almost like went back into that old me. And the next day I woke up and I was so dizzy, I could barely get up, but I was still I remember I cycled to the physio, and I was thinking, I don't even know if I should be cycling because I didn't feel right. And I lay on the bed and I couldn't actually talk to him or open my eyes. I just had to keep my eyes closed. And I didn't actually tell him I was feeling weird, but I think he must have known because I didn't say anything. And like to even open my eyes to look at him was just so, I couldn't do it. Not that I didn't want to look at him, but like I just felt so weird. And then Alex got back, and then I think I had to sort of go to bed for 2 or 3 days. So that, and then, I could feel, oh God, am I going back to my old ways? And that's really scary. Like, have I basically put myself back into the situation I was in for so long? But it wasn't. I was just on that way, and I'll never want to be in that situation again. So yeah, I think, after that, it made me realize I can't be on my own. Parenting on my own with 4 kids is just too much for me. So like my mum said she'll come and stay. It's not really fair on Alex, you see, because I go off on my solo holidays and leave him with 4 kids, which he loves and the kids love it. But then when he wants to go away, I can't cope with it because it's just a huge amount, especially dealing with 2 teenage girls who I love, but it's teenagers. And teenage girls and their mums, there's just like a thing Whereas teenage girls and their dad is like just a totally different. I mean, look, I'm generalizing, but so yeah, there's definitely signs, and I know what those signs are, and now I also know what would put me in that position. So, for example, I think I wouldn't do I wouldn't do 2 events in a week anymore. I try not to. I also had it when I did 2 events. I did 2 events at London Business School back to back. So I did like a Tuesday and a Wednesday. And it's very intense when I run events because everyone wants to talk to me, which I love because I run the community. And so in a day when an event is being run, I have not a minute to myself. And as I'm sure you know from being in communities and stuff, it's amazing and I love it and it's what I want to do. But it used up a huge amount of energy. So I could do that for a day, but then I'd need to go to bed for the next day. But this time I thought I'll do 2 back-to-back events. And at the end of the second one, I was just like, I was out with friends in a busy pub and I basically sort of had a bit of a panic attack and I was like, I don't want to be here. I can't talk. I had to go home and sort of leave the dinner. And it's just because I was overdoing it, basically.
Thanks for sharing.
That's okay. I don't mind sharing. I'm happy sharing. Like you said, founder burnout is huge. And, you know, we did an event in Birmingham all about founder burnout and founder wellbeing. And everyone was like, you know, I wasn't going to come to this event because I'm so busy. But then I saw this event and, you know, I'm feeling like this and this is why it's important. So we need to share about it more. My thought, though, is if we all talk about founder burnout, does it make it less likely that founders will burn out, or are they just going to push themselves to the edge like we all do, like I do, or I have done, because you don't know where the edge is?
So is it helpful experiencing the burnout or the depression or the panic attacks to know what the precursors are?
Well, now I know what the precursors are, but what I'm saying is, like, if I tell people, be careful, look after yourself, prioritize yourself, put your well-being first, whilst that all sounds good, if you haven't experienced, if you don't know where the edge is, you don't know when to pull yourself back. Does that make sense? As a founder, like, you know, if someone was telling me that, I would be like, well, I'm fine. I'm still fine. Until you push yourself so far, you don't know when you're not going to be fine. Because you always try and do more. Like, I remember, like, for example, I never read fiction because I was like, that's a waste of time. I might as well read business books. I used to read business books on holiday. I mean, it's kind of sad. And I would like...
It's literally what I do on holiday.
Is it? Yeah, read business books or self-improvement books. But now then I started getting into fiction and it's so good because it takes you away into another whole world and it actually gives you that break you need. And then you come back much more creative. I read this brilliant book called The Surrender Experiment. Have you read it?
No.
Okay, I'll send it to you.
Well, give me a synopsis.
The Surrender Experiment. And actually, there's a brilliant founder called Sidi who runs You're Hungry, who I invested a small amount of money in her, and she's amazing. And she also read it. It's about this guy, Michael someone, and he's like a yoga teacher, but basically ends up running like a multi-billion pound, incredibly successful business. But he just surrendered to everything that came his way, like the good stuff and the bad stuff. And he never sort of worried about it. And reading that book, it's just like, it's really, really good. So now, like, for example, if something bad happens or I'm worried about something, I'll just say to myself, like, I'm just going to surrender to what's meant to be, because I know that I'm meant to be on this journey. I know I'm meant to be doing what I'm doing, and I know that the right stuff will happen. For example, I don't have any sponsors at the moment. I did a post about it at Christmas, and my friend said, gosh, I saw that post and I was amazed. Like, are you not worried about it, that you haven't got any sponsors? And I said, I'm not worried about it because it's going to happen. I know it's going to happen. So I'm just going to surrender to what is going to happen. But you've got to do the work. You're not just sitting back and being like, I'm not going to do anything. Of course, I'm like sending out proposals and I'm talking to potential sponsors and I'm actively doing the work, but I'm not going to worry about whether it will happen because I know it will happen.
So it's like a combination of self-belief that the work you're doing is the right work and
taking action and not getting stressed about it because it's going to happen.
So it's almost like being future focused with the planning, but not with any attachment to any sort of outcome.
Yeah, I think so. And also just knowing that, like, you know, someone pulls their sponsorship. Our sponsors pulled from last year. Well, that is annoying, but just, it's okay. It's going to be okay. Like another sponsor will come up, might even be a better one. You know, it might be a better fit. It's going to happen. So I think that's almost like, I suppose I read that after I'd had my breakdown. So I think there's a lot of things that I've done differently from like, I've done a lot of reading of a lot of great books. Anyway, I was getting distracted because I was telling you about reading fiction. But so I used to do things like read business books, listen to podcasts all the time, go for a walk and be listening to a podcast about business, bettering myself. Almost remember my brain is so full. I was like, I can't actually take in any more information. I've done a mini MBA in marketing, but I'm still worried that I'm not good enough and that someone's going to catch me out. So I have to do even more and constantly be listening to webinars with people who know less than me. But I would like, you know, I was always trying to make sure that I was just covered by everything. So I was consuming a huge amount of content, of which, as you well know, there's a lot of great content and a lot of terrible content out there. And my brain felt very full. And when I had long COVID, it kind of felt inflamed. So I think I've gone from that to trying to like read more fiction, listen to, not constantly listening to podcasts all the time and not constantly trying to better myself. And just knowing that like I think also like I'm happier in what I'm doing now. And it's my own destiny kind of thing. And I don't have to prove anything to anyone because it's my thing.
The feeling of not enoughness is something I definitely connect with, and I feel like I personally connect with it more on a like conscious. I understand there's probably something there for me in that sense of feeling not enough, and I think it's like this is a massive generalization, but I think this is quite a male trait as well. Like most men who push themselves hard is generally down to this feeling of not enoughness. And I heard someone say that most women who push themselves hard is a feeling of not feeling loved or something. And that was the sort of generalized gender split. But anyway, regardless.
Who knows? Yeah.
Who knows? Do you have that same, it sounds like you don't have that same feeling of not enoughness now because what you just said.
Enough, yeah. I am like very confident with what I'm doing. I know I'm smashing it. I know I'm delivering huge amounts of impact for people. I know it has been very hard for me to say those kind of things in the past. Like I've been successful. I never wanted to say I've been successful. I never wanted to say I made money. I never wanted to tell people about the good things that had happened. I also didn't want to tell people that I'd been on Dragon's Den and my business had failed. So I was just very sort of humble and quiet. And I realized that didn't do me any favors because if I didn't tell people like the stuff that I'd done, the good stuff and the bad stuff, people would never know. So how I look at it is that I was very humble and I didn't tell anyone my experiences, whether they were good experiences or bad experiences or successful or failures. And I was kind of waiting for people to pick me, like, why isn't someone just contacting me and asking me to be a non-exec director or asking me to be an advisor or asking me to be a consultant for them? You know, like I've done all these amazing things, but I wasn't actually able to confidently talk about myself and what I'd done. So obviously people didn't know, like most people didn't know I'd been on Dragon's Den, you know, until I started telling people 5 years ago. I was on it 20 years ago when I was 25. So, you know, I did really well. We got 200 grand of investment. The business failed, but still the process was good. But yeah, so I didn't tell people. So now, like one of the things that I try and realize is that I'm so proud of myself. And the reason I'm proud of myself is because I've come out the other side of this like awful situation where I was really not well. And I couldn't go to a friend's dinner party and sit at a table and talk to my best friends. So the fact that I am now doing something I love, helping other entrepreneurs, the fact that I can stand up on stage in front of 250 people at an event that I've organized 2 and a bit years later is just, I feel so happy and so grateful and also proud of myself that I've managed to get that far. So now I do think I'm enough. What I have a massive problem with, which is also in the same book, another book called The Uncomfortable Truths by Anna Mathur, I think it is. So one of those is about not being good enough. The other one is about wanting to be liked. And that's my problem, is like, I want everyone to like me and I want everyone to like, you know, I want to be liked. I'm a people pleaser. And also I want people to like align with my project, like Female Founders Rise. And sometimes people aren't, and they don't want to collaborate, or they don't like what I'm doing, or they don't like me because of what I'm doing. And I find that like really hard, the fact that people don't like me. So that's something I'm working on.
How are you working on that?
Reading this book, The Uncomfortable Truths, and realizing that I just did a post about this the other day. Sometimes when I do my posts on LinkedIn, it's quite often for me. Like I would post like saying, you don't need to be liked by everyone, da, 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 and I'm sharing what I've learned. And what I've learned is I don't like everyone, and that's okay. And therefore, not everyone's going to like me, and that's okay. Not everyone's going to align with what I'm doing, and that's also okay. And I think what happens with me is I could get one horrible comment or one person leaving an arsey email, which I do get from time to time, or someone being unfriendly or not wanting to collaborate. And I take that will kind of ruminate, and I don't think about the 99% of people that send me amazing emails and messages every day saying that what I'm doing is amazing and they've met a co-founder or they've got investment or any of those things. I just my brain focuses on the one person that's horrible. And I think I don't know if it's a female thing or if it's, I don't know, like I grew up and you're shaking your head. I just want people to like me. And if there's one person that doesn't like me, I'm like, but why? Why? And it's almost like I'll try and, be nice to the 1%. And like what I'm trying to learn is that it's okay if people don't like you. And like Dan, who works with me, he always says like, it's just good feedback. Just appreciate the feedback. Like if someone gives you horrible feedback and it upsets you, just say, thank you. I really appreciate that feedback. And then, there's probably something that you can learn from it.
I definitely don't think it's a female thing. I think lots of people want to be liked.
Yeah.
And like I feel like I was much more of a people pleaser beforehand, and now it feels like less like that. I suppose mainly because I've also listened to more people who are very like, I don't care if you like me or not, and so this is who I am or what I'm doing, and that felt a lot more resonant to me. And I think also that combined with we have a negativity bias, and so the loss is greater than the win, and so the one person saying something nasty to you is so much more impactful than the 99 people saying great things about you. What is it about the one person saying something negative about you or sending you the nasty email? What is it that makes that so cutting? Like, why is that important?
I think also because Female Founders Rise, I'm so passionate about it. I kind of want other people to be on board and passionate with it. And also, by the way, it's fine. Not everyone's got different interests, haven't they, in different lights. I don't know what it is. I just think it's one of those things that I've always, wanted people to like me. And I think you go through stages, don't you, in life where maybe you feel left out at some points, or I don't know what it is. But I just need to learn that it's okay not to be liked by everyone.
Well, luckily 99% of people love you, so and Female Founders Rise. And so let's go into it. You have been running it for how many years now?
I set it up 2.5 years ago. I created a LinkedIn page saying what I was doing. And that was when I stopped my consultancy job, started taking meds and started taking therapy in the summer, in like August, I think. And in August or September, I set up this page and decided I would do Female Founders Rise. That's around the same time in September. I went on my first solo holiday, and I remember being absolutely petrified. I hadn't left my husband or my children for like a year, for so long on my own. And I also didn't think that my husband was able to. I was so scared about him looking after the children on his own. I don't know why. I mean, he absolutely smashed it, and he's amazing, and they have such a great time. But I was just really nervous about. And I remember saying to him, I'm going to probably come back early. So like I'd booked it for 4 nights or 5 nights. But knowing that I could come back early was the thing that was kind of making me feel safe to go. So I said to him, I'm probably going to come back early. So anyway, I went on this holiday. I sold the house in Wales that I'd bought with my money from when I sold my business, decided to start angel investing, and I sort of set up Female Founders Rise all at the same time as I started getting better, let's say. And the reason that I put some money aside. I put 90K aside from the sale of my house, which was just for me, so that I didn't have to work, so I could pay for my, salary, my living, my 4 kids, but also to sort of fund Female Founders Rise. And initially, it was just a little passion project because I knew that while I was getting better, I didn't want to work. I couldn't work. I couldn't have anything stressful like my consultancy, but I needed to be doing something to give me a bit of purpose. And I'd had this idea for so long about Female Founders Rise. I wanted to do it, but I just didn't have the time or the energy because I was doing my consultancy. So it was only when I had to stop consulting that I had like a blank page with like nothing, no clients, no nothing, and a bit of money to keep me going. And I thought I'll set up the company page. So I did that. Then I set up a Google form and I just said, join this if you're interested. And I think I started off by doing like a few marketing office hours because my background's kind of marketing and media. And I'd been doing sort of marketing growth consultancy. So I saw that lots of founders were wasting loads of money on marketing and they didn't know what they were doing, getting investment and then wasting money. And so I thought that was a way that I could help them. And I also had massively believed in like community and bringing people together. And before Female Founders Rise, I'd run quite a few communities just for fun on the side. Like I set up one during COVID called Ladies in Marketing, and it was just like a free Zoom meetup because everyone was feeling disconnected. So kind of that September it kind of started, and I say didn't really kick off properly till the January. So 2 years ago, in December, we had our first event ever, which was 10 people. I was absolutely petrified. I remember wanting to cancel it. I hadn't been able to go to dinner, like I said, with my friends. So the fact that I was running this event for 10 people, I was so scared. It was snowing. I thought, I'm going to cancel it because it's snowing. But I went and everyone loved it. And they said, when's the next one? And I'd never run an event before in my life. Wasn't really an event. Let's call it like a tiny little coffee meetup. But then in January, we had our first event with 30 people. And then it was 50 in February. And then 150 or something in March for International Women's Day. And then boom, it's been like that ever since. This year we sold out International Women's Day in a day. I think we've got 175 people coming. So the events are just like very popular. And in January 2 years ago, we had my first advisory board meeting or sort of board meeting. And I invited like 10 people in the ecosystem, some incredible people, and a lady called Alyssa and Victoria and Dan all like jumped on board as advisory members, and they all did like a 2-year stint with me for the first 2 years, helping me build FFR.
And now over 8,000 members.
Over 8,000 members, yeah. 2 years on. And we've started a fundraising accelerator. So I think we're on to our third fundraising accelerator. That's an 8-week program we're doing about 80 or 90 founders at a time. We're going to launch in Lisbon in March, and then some other chapters around the UK and Europe. We've done a personal branding challenge. We've done 5 personal branding challenges with about 700 women doing that. So that's all around helping women find their voices online and sharing their stories. We did a big outdoor campaign, which was seen by 2.5 million people. We've launched a directory for women-led businesses. We're doing loads of stuff. I can't even remember it all. I'm constantly testing out new things and seeing what sticks and what doesn't. So it might change by the time this goes live.
Either way, I think experimentation is a sign of a great entrepreneur. So
yeah, exactly. I'm trying to model, to the community how, especially to earlier stage founders who might be new to entrepreneurship, like how to do things like build in public, don't get too hung up about if it works or not, keep testing it, change the price, change the offering, and I'm sure people are like, what's Emmie doing? She's splitting around a bit, but I'm just constantly testing stuff out and seeing what works.
Yeah, interestingly, one of my goals this quarter is to be more strategic in my experimentation. Is to have very clearly defined how long does this experiment need to run? What are the KPIs for it working or not working?
Mine's not anywhere near that organised.
Is it
It's
not?
the gut. It's the gut instinct. And which, did you know? I'm sure you did know about this, but our unconscious brains like assimilate millions of pieces of data every minute, second, whatever it is. And so actually those gut decisions are often quite right. So for me, I can kind of like, I probably should be more organized and be like, I have a hypothesis that's this and da, da, da. But for me, I'm kind of like, I'll test it out, I'll get some feedback and tweak it a bit. But I'm not as organized as you. Though I know you should be. I know startups should be, and I've seen like how you do it properly, and I probably should do that.
Well, I'm not having done it, so this is me also wanting to be more organized with it. Was that shift to being more gut focused also something that evolved since you were ill? Because again, like that's often when we're thinking about health, it's like my gut's telling me I should probably stop working, or I should chill out a bit, or I shouldn't be reading this business book.
I think I've always, it's interesting actually. I think I've always been big on my intuition and my gut. And it's interesting, most of the investments that I've made, it is like I've been interviewed on panels and they say like, how did you decide which companies to invest? Can you talk us through the process? And then other people on the panel are like very going into their due diligence process and how they look for this and this. And I'm like, oh gosh, shit, I'm literally going to say like, I just use my gut, which is what I do. And I felt that was a really sort of unexpert thing to say. But then when I read that piece of research, I was like, well, actually, my gut's telling me the right thing. So like when I invest in founders, I am just like, how am I feeling when I talk to you? Do I feel like you know what you're doing? And am I excited by what you're talking about? Yeah, fine. I'm investing. I don't do a huge much more research than that. So I do think it's always been quite important, but I think I'm now comfortable to trust it more.
I have the exact same investment approach as you do. I've done like 7 micro tickets, and it's always just been a friend of mine who goes, oh, we've got a round open, like, do you want to get involved? And I just take a value judgment on who I think they're like as a founder. They're like, oh, do you want to see a deck? I'm like, no. Also, it's like angel stage, exactly. Right?
And it's, for me, it's small amounts of money. And also most of the time I don't know these people, so it's not friends. Most of the time I invested in one founder called Peony, who runs Jude. And I don't think I've ever had a conversation with her. I just saw her on a Zoom recording, and after 10 minutes I was like, I'm in. That was my biggest ever investment.
Well, she is lovely. I can attest. She's wicked. So
it's a good decision. Yeah. I was like, that's such a good investment. I was like, I know. There you go. It's my gut.
Going back to Female Founders Rise, the challenge that pretty much every community builder I advise on or chat to is all about making money.
Yeah,
founders,
it's very hard.
It was a challenge to make money, and now that business is running well. What has been your journey with monetizing FFR?
Very hard, because like I think I'd imagine the same with founders, but I think a lot of communities were not setting up to make money. So like I didn't set up FFR, Female Founders Rise. I mean, gosh, of course, in the back of my mind, I wanted it to be a global community eventually, but that wasn't like when I first set up the LinkedIn page and the Google form. I had no expectations apart from a belief that it could be huge, but I didn't know where it was going to go. So initially it was free because it was a passion project and I had 90 grand sitting there to pay me. And also I only had 100 members, but as it's got bigger and bigger, it becomes more and more labor, time intensive. I now need to pay myself. I've also got 3 people. It goes in and out of, it sort of changes slightly, but 3 freelancers who will need paying are, just for example, our email marketing system is 3 grand a year because we've got so many different members, so much tagging, so much segmentation. And then you add in photographers and event, all these things have a cost to them. And if I want to help more people and I want to grow it, that becomes even more expensive. So many people have said to me, you'll never make any money from it. It won't end up lasting. So many founders I know, so many people I know have had communities for female founders or for founders or for anything, and they've closed it down because, what starts off as a lovely idea then becomes big and it becomes too much and overwhelming, and then you're not getting paid and it's not possible. So yes, I get that. And I think the difficult thing is monetizing it. I do think it's possible. Everyone said to me, you got to charge your members £10 a month or £20 a month or whatever. And I never wanted to do that because I wanted to make it accessible to everyone. I tried a bit to do that, really didn't want to do it, and it felt very against what I wanted to do. But I had people telling me, suggesting that I did that. And so I kind of tried, and I felt like it didn't really work. And I think one of the reasons it didn't really work is because I didn't have the value proposition, right? So like saying to someone, pay £10 a month or £20 a month to join Female Founders Rise, if they don't know what they're going to get, is very hard. Whereas like, as you said, with founders, if you're already a member of an amazing community, you see the value in it, you would be happy to contribute. So then I went down the route of getting people to sponsor it. So we've had a few sponsors. We have worked with the likes of London Business School and Lloyds Bank and a couple of others. And that was great to a point because it basically helped fund some of the costs. I think the other thing with that is just making sure that, you know, you're aligning with the right sponsors and that what they want you to do aligns with what you need to do. Because I think that's maybe where there can be a bit of a mismatch.
Can you go into that a little bit?
Sponsors are going to have their objectives. And as a community, I have my objectives, and my objectives with the community is like to get money from the sponsors to pay for the community to keep going. But the main thing is like, how am I delivering value to the community, to the end users? And how am I creating content and masterclasses and events that deliver value to them? So it's just making sure that whatever the sponsors want is also what delivers value, growth, and impact to the founders. Because sometimes there can be a bit of a mismatch.
Yeah, makes sense.
And I think the other thing about Female Founders Rise is, as I think you pointed out, like founders at this early stage, most of them don't have a huge amount of money. Most of them are very short for cash, especially if they're trying to raise funding. So it's difficult to charge them. Obviously, those who've got, you know, slightly further on or running service-based businesses and they're profitable, they do have a bit of money. And I think the other thing about Female Founders Rise is we want to keep everything affordable. So for example, we did Female Founders Raise, which is a massive conference with Google, and it was free to everyone. They had to apply, they had to be at the right stage, but it didn't cost them anything to come. Well, there are similar conferences that I've been to, and they're like £400 a ticket if you look at Sifted and stuff like that. So rather than charging people £350 a ticket, we want to charge them 35, or in this case with Google, because we were partnering with Google, it was free. And therefore, if you're only charging people £35 a ticket or 150 quid to do a personal branding challenge rather than a couple of grand, or our accelerator at the moment is free, but even if we charge £100, we're charging, you know, a tenth. We're not taking any equity. We're charging a tenth of everything else that's on the market. And we want to do that to make it accessible, to not put barriers in place. And I think that's the problem that I'm trying to sort of navigate, is getting the money in. And also, and charging, even if I do charge founders a bit, how do we make it so affordable that we're not excluding people and putting barriers in place for them getting the support they need, but also covering our costs? So I'm testing stuff, like we said, I'm testing stuff out all the time, testing out the personal branding challenge, testing out charging people £10 a month. And is it easy to onboard those people, and what do they get in addition to the community itself will always be free. So you join the community, you get a weekly newsletter with loads of resources. Why?
Why would it always be free?
Because that's just how I want it to be. Because like, for me, the impact that I create is more important than the money that I generate. So as long as I can have enough money to pay me and the team that are working for us, and also, you know, I'm surrendering to what's meant to be, and I know it's going to happen. So I know that this will drive revenue as well as impact, but the income is secondary to the impact for me.
But you yourself earlier on said that the impact and the revenue are connected, obviously. Like the more you make, the more you can open up new chapters.
Exactly. But I think the community, the free community is access to free masterclasses, access to come to events, which the events are like, you know, £20 or £25, a weekly newsletter with resources and stuff like that. There's no need, of course there's cost to creating all of that, but there's no need to charge for that, because actually I can charge for other things and I can get money from sponsors. It's just about weighing it all up. And actually I would rather have 50,000 women here that I'm helping with my free community, and then some of those will become paying members. Well, some of those will do the. I think it's just also about getting the right amount. So at the moment, for example, the accelerator is £10 a month for 2 months. I mean, it's like nothing we could. Most people will be charging £1,000 or £2,000 plus some of them are taking equity. So even if we charge people £100, that would, those small changes would make significant difference in the back end. So that's what I'm testing out. Always be testing. I think obviously I'm in a privileged position that I mean, I do need to be paid because I'm running a long-term, profitable, sustainable, impact-led business, and I want to practice what I preach. I want women to be financially free, and the purpose of Female Founders Rise is financial freedom for women through entrepreneurship. So I want to practice what I preach. I don't want to run a charity. We're pending B Corp, so we're about to become a B Corp, and I believe in profit, people, planet, and I believe that you can do good with those things. So of course I want my business to make money, because actually, as you said, the more money we make, the more we can help people, and the more I can do my angel investing. But it's definitely sort of slow and it's definitely hard, but I feel like it will all come.
So I'm doing to
with my constant testing and reiterating, and we've got a really good reputation and we've got lots of people that do want to help. I think getting sponsors at the moment in this current climate is maybe quite hard. It feels much harder than it used to be. When Female Founders Rise had 1,000 members, it felt like everyone was chucking money at us.
Yeah, interestingly, I think about this question of how communities make money quite a lot.
How do you think? What do you think I should do? Given the, or am I not allowed to turn
I don't believe in giving advice, because you have all the context, and therefore you're the only person who knows exactly what you should be doing.
Exactly.
But my experience and opinion of communities in general is every community should charge membership, personally, because I think people value things that they pay for, however small that may be. I don't believe that membership should be a fixed price. It should be variable, depending on someone's purchasing power. If someone's a first-time founder, they're not making any money, fine, pay £10 for the year.
Yeah.
For the whole year. It doesn't matter. Like you get to decide what you get to pay. And then people do it based on the value, and you ask people the question at the end of every year. That's the first thing. However, I do believe that every single event should also be paid, because it's the best indicator of a good event, like one that hits the pain point. If something is free, you don't get a strong enough feedback loop that somebody actually wants it. Whereas if someone pays for it, then they want it, they've paid for it. And so I think actually every single aspect of the community experience should be paid for in some regards. And again, it doesn't have to be very much. It just has to be someone putting their money where their mouth is.
A pound a month to get the newsletter. That's so interesting. Would you know what's really interesting as well? I think you're right. So there's lots of free events out there which are paid for by sponsors, and people sign up and register and they don't end up turning up. And like you said, I mean, there's no intent necessarily there. I think that's the reason we charge, is like there's massive intent. And also, if people weren't buying and paying the tickets, we know there's a problem. They're not just signing up for this free. So International Women's Day sells out every year. We know it's very popular. Female Founders Rise sells out every year. When we go to like a tiny city in England and do an event where there's not very many female founders, it's really hard to get people to buy tickets. In fact, they probably wouldn't buy tickets, and that's telling us that there's not the demand for that event in that particular event at that particular time in that place. And so you actually get it, like you said, you're getting feedback.
And that's what's needed in all these experiments, right? And so maybe it's not like the specific event that you run in Scunthorpe for like the female founders in Scunthorpe, but actually maybe it's like the Scunthorpe mums who are thinking about starting a new business. And actually that event would resonate a lot harder.
The fact it was at lunchtime, or the fact it was in the evening. There's all these things. So I'm constantly testing out as well, like what are the best times to run events, and what's the best format, and what do people like. And I mean, we get feedback after every single event. We do NPS scores. So we have NPS scores of all of our events. We compare them all. Most times that I do in a masterclass online, I get feedback at the end of the masterclass. When we do like a big thing like Female Founders Raise, we'll also ask for, why did you get that NPS score? Do you have any other feedback? So we're constantly gathering at the end of our personal branding challenge, at the end of our accelerator. So we're always gathering feedback from people about, what they think about the events and stuff like that. So know they're valuable. I think, the proposition about getting people to pay so that they feel like it's a brilliant deal. But also, say for example, you get everyone to pay £1 a month for being part of the community. Just say the sort of admin behind that is kind of a bit of a nightmare, because then you'll get people saying, can I change my credit card? I don't want to pay my £1 a month anymore. I don't want to pay my £10 a month. I mean, it then creates quite a lot of admin in the back end. That's what we found. So I think the other thing is just, it was interesting you saying that with founders, they pay a yearly fee. One of the things I'm thinking of moving it to is a quarterly fee, because I like the idea of it being quarterly, because actually monthly is, onboarding someone and all of that is quite a lot of work. And actually, what you don't want to do is to onboard someone and then them leave within the first month, because the £10 a month hasn't even covered the onboarding cost. We've had people that have signed up for the 7-day free trial. The 7-day free trial it says very clearly it's not a trial of the platform. It's 7 days to allow us to get them onto the platform, because we basically just check through everyone's applications to check their female founders. So you have a 7 days of you not paying, which gives us 7 days to onboard you, so that you're never in a situation where you're paying money and you're not live on the platform. But we've had people cancel in those 7 days. So it's just like, and because it's weighing up when it's quite small amounts of money, where does it make sense? And actually I think quarterly works really well, because 3 months is long enough for someone to decide if they're getting value or not. But also it doesn't mean it's a lot of work for both parties.
Yeah.
I don't know, always testing things out.
Always testing, always experimenting.
Exactly. And being curious and trying not to beat myself up about it.
I have 2 more questions for you. One is about those feedback points. What has been the question you've asked that has given you the best feedback that has been implemented into the business?
So when I did my mini MBA marketing with Mark Ritson, he said there's only 2 questions you need to ask. And those are the 2 questions I ask. What is your NPS score? How likely are you to recommend this to another founder, this event or this accelerator? So that's the NPS score. And then what's the reason for your score? And that will give you all the information that you need. And it keeps it really short as well. So that is the question that we ask for everything. And if they give you a terrible score, which most of the time we get world-class NPS. So we maybe get one person that says, there wasn't any gluten-free options at lunch, or there was too many sandwiches or something like that, or I don't know. There's always going to be, the odd bit of feedback that's not great. One person, that's fine. Like I said, you've got to take that on board and make sure that you take that on board for next time. But, people will then say, I gave you a 10 because world-class speakers and the other founders were amazing, or amazing venue, really central, loved that. In fact, I could get to it from the train. Plus I sat next to 3 amazing women. Can't believe, the kind of women you've got in your community. So everyone will tell you why they gave you that score. And that feedback will basically tell you everything that you need to know.
Love that. And then you got to make sure that one person that didn't enjoy it doesn't dwarf the 99 people that did, right?
Exactly. Because I literally go down, it's like 10, 10, 10, 10, 9, 10, 10, 10, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 7. And I'm like, 7? What's that 7 about? But, it's always good, because it makes it real, doesn't it? Like we've got something like 145-star Google reviews, and we've got 1 4-star one. And I remember being a bit like dagger in the heart, like, oh my God, we've got a 4-star review. But that's fine, because it just shows that all the other 150 are real. And also, I shouldn't get het up, because not everyone will give, even if that's the other thing I've realized. Someone gave us like a 7 or an 8, and they said this was one of the best conferences I've been to. It was brilliant. You think, well, wouldn't you give it a 10?
Well,
but not everyone, there's...
In some people's eyes, there's no such thing as a 10.
No, exactly.
Because there's no such thing as perfect, which is what
exactly.
10 is. Anyway, this has been phenomenal. Thank you so much. The closing tradition is, assuming this has been listened to by a bunch of entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs, and given that you've been so generous with your time, what is something a audience and community of entrepreneurs could support you with?
Oh, amazing. What can the listeners support me with, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so nice. Well, given that my mission is to enable financial freedom for women through entrepreneurship through our community, it would just be to spread the word about Female Founders Rise, to tell fellow founders about the community, and also to support to support I mean, entrepreneurship is hard. Yeah, it's hard. It's a lonely game. I encourage any entrepreneur to go and find communities, whether it's a community in your vertical or in your local city or for particular founders. But yeah, just spread the word about Female Founders Rise, and support female founders when you see them. If you see them on LinkedIn, they could be doing the personal branding challenge. Give them a like, give them a little comment, and yeah, I appreciate this conversation.
Well, having been to a couple of your events, I can attest that they are phenomenal. And I think the other thing is like male founders can also support female founders rise in a very
we
hands-on
love
way.
it. I'm interested to understand what more we can do to get the allies on board. Like, I think, I'd love to have events where we're mixing, male and female founders coming together, sharing learnings, because we can learn so much from each other. And just very quickly, I was going to say, someone was asking me about, female founder communities and all of that kind of thing. And I don't believe you should just be part of a female founder community or just work in a female founder, in a venue with other female founders. I believe in diversity of thought and diversity of relationships. And I'm very keen to like hang out with male founders and incredible men who've helped me on this journey. I just feel like there's a small part in a female founder's life for Female Founders Rise where you can get the support you need to get funded and meet other female founders and have that one part of your community bubble sort of like looked after. But there's many other communities that you should be part of, and you should hang out with male founders, and you should hang out with, all kinds of founders and people in the ecosystem, because we've got so much to share and learn from each other.
Completely agree. Wow, you're the shining star in the space. Thank you so much for sharing it and for building such an impactful community. And I can attest, as I said, your events are amazing. The members are amazing. All the people I've met there. I've had people on this podcast from one of your events. And so
nice.
It's a huge ripple effect. So thank you for doing what you're doing, and thank you for coming today.
Thank you.